Hello, everyone. Good evening. Ross here at Teacher Toolkit. Thank you for joining me. Let me just bring myself up so you can see. I'm very excited this evening because we've got the SLT team at one of the school users for the Lion Academy Trust to go through some of their insights and experiences of some of the curriculum resources that we're going to showcase to you tonight. So introducing the Lion Pathways curriculum developed by the Lion Academy Trust. So just to make sure that you're in the right place and how this software works, you'll be watching on a various channels. So as long as you're logged in and you wish to leave a question or a comment, that's how you can do so. So if I just give you a demonstration, so I'll just put one of my comments up here. We'll filter through all the different conversations and comments, and we'll put them on the screen and we'll answer them on your behalf. And shortly, I'll introduce you to the people that are my guests this evening. So just to give people a chance to get connected and get warmed up, if you can log in and connect to your devices and let me know where you're watching from. This is your one chance to have your village, town, city, wherever you're watching from, or even your school, a shout out to all these different channels and a chance for some free publicity. So what's not to like? So let me know in the comments as you can, as quick as you can. So the Lion Pathways curriculum, it offers a comprehensive and structured curriculum tailored for schools across the English education sector. The resources which we're going to show you tonight are digitized lessons, detailed lesson plans, assessment sheets, pupil tracking opportunities, the whole raft of things. Great for teacher workload. What's not to like? Promoting pupil engagement and a consistent and vocabulary-rich learning experience across the school. So during this show and tell webinar, we'll discuss some of the inspiration behind the resources and some current users. So before we go into all the details, let me just do some technicality things here. So again, reminder, comments in the chat box and we'll display them. I'm going to bring in our guests. So I'm going to move the slides out of the way and I'm going to bring in Erin Wright. So Erin is a former head teacher. Erin, how are you? Introduce yourself to everyone and tell us your experiences.
Yeah, very well. Thanks, Ross. And hi, everyone. So, yeah, former head teacher, but now an exec head teacher. So working across the Lion Academy Trust that I've worked for about 13 years now. One of the key remits as part of my role is the curriculum development lead of the Lion Learning Pathways. And it really kind of started off as a concept about 3 years ago, how we really wanted to get that ambitious and engaging curriculum consistent, not just within one school, but across all of the schools, all the 10 schools in the Lion Academy Trust. So we got all of the subject leads, curriculum leads in, and basically designed the curriculum so that it's sequenced cumulatively, builds on prior learning, makes explicit links to prior learning, a vocabulary-rich curriculum being a key feature, how we use assessment so that pupils can know more, do more, remember more. And yeah, and then it just kept evolving really, Ross, sort of year on year. So last year, there were over 1,000 updates. So we wanted to raise the profile of the British values, further enhance the plenaries, obviously changing monarchy, quite a few continuous changes in government. So we continue to update that when we're learning about historical significant figures, as an example. And the intent's been tried and tested many times. It comes out very strong. And because it's all web-based, cloud-based, we can share it anywhere, whatever corner of the world. It's digital. And the really, I suppose the lovely thing about it is how we've curated all of the resources. So, and again, I can show you a bit more on that, how the teachers have all of the planning, but it's also backed up by these beautifully curated visual resources, which is obviously what the children get.
So for viewers watching for the first time, so I've been privy to seeing all this brilliant stuff behind the scenes. So we're going to showcase these all to you shortly. Erin, thank you. I'm going to bump you off if that's all right, and I'll bring you back shortly. And I'm going to bring in Daniel and his team live from Southampton. Everyone give us a wave. Okay, so fantastic. So Daniel, executive head teacher, 3 primary schools in Southampton, using the Lion Pathways Trust. Before we get into the details of your experiences. Can I get everyone just to introduce yourself one at a time? Start from Daniel and work along, and say hello to everybody watching.
Yeah, sure. I'm Daniel. I'm the executive head teacher at St Mary's and Mason Moore and Valentine in Southampton. I've worked with the schools now for just over 19 months at St Mary's, and then we've had a kind of shorter journey with Mason Moore and Valentine, all of which were at really difficult parts of the journey when we took over the schools. So, you know, either decline in standards or a rapid decline because of an Ofsted judgment. So the trust model in terms of the curriculum has been kind of the driving force of improvement for the schools.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you.
I'm Amy. I'm one of the assistant head teachers here. My responsibility is for Year 1 phonics and early reading, and we have now been able to shape the roles to give the support across the other schools as well. So it's been exciting for the lower years.
I mean, I'll try not to be biased because I'm a big fan of early years teachers at the moment. So yeah, I'll try not to favour your answers more than everyone else. Who's next to you?
Hi, I'm Georgia. I'm head of nurseries here and at one of our sister schools.
Hi, Georgia. The same message from me. I think early years teachers are phenomenal. Who's next? Who's next?
I'm Faye, and I'm the deputy head teacher here at St Mary's.
Hi, Faye. Thank you for joining us. And next to you, Faye?
Hi, I'm Leanne. I'm the assistant head teacher in Senko at St Mary's.
Senko. And finally?
I'm Anna. I work as deputy head teacher at Mason Moore, which is one of the other schools. So I started at St Mary's before Daniel, and I moved over with him to help roll out the curriculum there.
Brilliant. Thank you, Anna. And can I just check, is this everyone's first live stream ever?
Yes.
Okay. I'll try to be kind and gentle. Okay. So so let's Daniel, before I pop back to Aaron and we go through a little quick demo, could you tell me how you've navigated, so you know, your tradition, how you transitioned into this online platform? Was it something from the pandemic, or was it planned well before this kind of era?
So it kind of goes a little bit further back than that. So I used to work for the Lion Academy Trust, and I left in end of 2019 to become HMI. I enjoyed it, but then the pandemic hit, and I just felt that going back into schools and lambasting them at a time when they really needed some support and they needed, you know, structure. And I thought my moral imperative was to go back and to do what I'm trained to do, which is to teach. So I contacted Southampton. They had a role for school improvement at the time. So they wanted me to kind of be one of their school improvement officers with a focus on curriculum. I kept in touch with the trust. So I'd spoken to the deputy director a few times and I've met up with him. And I was really passionate about what the curriculum does. And as Aaron was saying to and alluding to before, about 3.5-4 years ago, there was this kind of push on how do we create a curriculum that we can adopt across the group of schools. So, you know, within our network, but also think about what the deficits are locally and beyond that. And at that time, the growth strategy for the trust had moved into the Midlands, and we were supporting these schools that were just, they'd not had investment for a long time. They didn't really have a clarity of the pathway of where they were going. The new framework was very different, and schools that had kind of got by maybe on good results for years but hadn't invested in teachers or on curriculum were kind of, you know, it was a stalemate situation. So when I left Ofsted and came into Southampton, it was a no-brainer. I knew straight away that I wanted the curriculum to be kind of a model that we rolled out. I was really keen to kind of not just, you know, just come in with a package of, I know this, we're going to use it. But my work with Faye at the time, who was the deputy on the ground, was about how we started to kind of infiltrate the staffing situation to support them, so that when we did roll it out in the January, February, that they were strong and they were ready, you know, to go with it.
So just picking up on that kind of transition, a question for Faye, Leanne and Anna, so any of you or each of you, in terms of that implementation as a school leader, what were the most significant changes in, you know, you've got the policy strategy, but the teach and practice logistics that you observe from kind of, you know, go back to the very beginning phases when you were introducing the Pathways curriculum. Can you give us, Anna, if I can start with you, can you give us any kind of insights into the policy strategy as well as the changes in practice that had to happen?
So I think the main challenge we faced at the time was subject knowledge for teachers. So we had a curriculum that wasn't necessarily streamlined, sequential across the foundation subjects. So I think the Blind Academy Trust obviously sits above the national curriculum. So that was a big challenge that we had to roll out to teachers to understand what it was they had to deliver. That was probably one of the main challenges in terms of policy.
Okay, and Leanne, anything in terms of maybe teaching practice, things that you had to put in place for teacher training?
Yeah, we had to put in place quickly some of the things around for our SEND children and what that looked like, because you get, with the Myro, you get 3 different tasks, but it's also thinking about personalised provision for some of those children and not just going with what's on the Myro.
Okay, and so we're going to show Myro in a moment. Faye, can I just come to you for any thoughts on kind of that leadership implementation across the school?
I think also it was the implementation of the Myro. Myro is a very different platform which we use for our staff. So actually what really supported the staff was the fact that us as SLT were in class teaching sometimes at the same time. So we were modelling the use of Myros to them. And I think that was essential, really, that they had that buy-in to the whole system because we were there on the ground teaching it and showing them the benefits of it as well. So I think that was really important.
Now, Amy and George, I'm going to give you a surprise question here. Teaching practice, so the implementation of this strategy, what were your initial headaches? And how do you think your teaching's changed using this kind of, the curriculum package, the online software? So, Amy, let's start with you.
For my team, it has been that move from subject knowledge to skill, teaching explicit skills and getting not only the staff, but the children to be aware of how they're building upon their skills in each lesson and where their learning journey starts. So we've been able, what's really lovely about the curriculum is it starts in early years, and working across both R&1 and working with nursery, we can see their journey and teach them how not only is their subject knowledge developing, but their skills are developing. And that's something that was entirely new for a lot of children, as opposed to always just teaching them subject knowledge. They had to learn their skill as well. It's a brand new concept, but so worthwhile.
I don't want to put words into your mouth, Amy, but does the platform give you more insight compared to maybe a paper-based method that you might have used in the past?
So where we're able to track through the Myros, we can see their learning journey a lot clearer. So previously you would have to flick through smartboards or PowerPoints, whereas your whole learning journey for a year is there. So I can refer back with the children and go, but you've done, this is the skill you've done before, this is how it builds upon. So they can see that journey as well. And that has been so essential for them to be able to articulate their skills. And it's something that we've all picked up on, is that our nursery and our Year R children come in the most articulate that they can be, because that's a skill that's embedded. They see their sequence of learning and they understand it. And the framework as well breaks down the skills really clearly. So we've got, as professionals, broken down skills that we're working towards, as opposed to having to pinpoint different areas.
Yeah, and Georgia, in nursery, this is outside my comfort zone and expertise, but how has it changed your initial practice and your implementation of that curriculum with the young people that you work with?
So I joined the nursery at a time when we were rolling this out. So I think for the team, we've been on a really big journey. We had to make a shift from everything was very topic focused. So the team were very much choosing something of the children's interest, but we were losing those teaching moments of skills and knowledge. And we weren't building upon that across the year. Everything was in isolation. So when we started using the pathway, it's really helped us map out the year and be really clear what skills we would like the children to learn at each half term. And then we can weave in their interests around that. So it's a real focus on the knowledge and skill now.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. You can all breathe a sigh of relief. I'm going to move over to Aaron. I guess what I'm learning, you know, that global perspective of your curriculum and that digital access, remarkable for teacher workload, but really streamlines your teaching in particular. I'm going to bump you guys off the camera for now, so I'll be back shortly. Aaron, can I bring you in now? And if I just put this slide up here, and if you just give us an introduction to what have we got on these 2 or 3 slides, and then I'll ask you to share your screen and give us a little flavour of Myro. And reminder to everybody watching, questions in the chat box, please. So, Aaron, what we got here on the screen?
Yeah, so there's kind of 2 areas here. You've got the Line Learning Pathways client login, which gives you access to all of the resources. And if you go to the next slide, Ross,
yeah,
it's kind of the additional thing, like colleagues have talked about, is the Myro platform. So that's how it brings the learning to life. So within each booklet, you've got the lesson plans, learning intentions, success criteria, key vocab, assessment questions being a key thread throughout, the differentiated tasks. So every lesson has got a task B at expected standard, task A at greater depth, task C at working towards. And then if you go to the next slide, Ross,
yeah.
Again, it's so by numbers, what does that look like? Over 1,500 lessons, almost 5,000 different differentiated activities, talk partners being a key feature so that the learning's very active in the classroom. Over 7,000 of those, almost 6,000 new words, and in total 234 units across every subject that we've mapped out. So then if we go to the next slide, Ross, kind of how that then looks like, also the one before. So, and again, this is how we've sequenced it so that we've safeguarded that children are making those cumulative gains over time, and thus why it's called a pathway. So, for example, if I'm in year 4 teaching electricity, I've got children working at pre-key stage, then I can look at the content for electricity in year 2 very seamlessly. So the children are still accessing an ambitious, broad and balanced curriculum, but I can tailor the learning and the objectives for those children that perhaps aren't working at expected standard, but I can also take it forwards. If I've got a very, very more able pupil, I can be looking at the year 6 objectives. And when you get to year 6 across all of the subjects, we've factored in key stage 3 learning so that supports the transition, so that the children are, developmentally ready to access the key stage 3 curriculum. So if we look at the next slide, Ross, we've also gone into the kind of detail of your overview mapping. So like Dan and the team said, you can see very clearly where the different units come up across the different year groups to support you with tracking the learning, the sequencing, and how that builds cumulatively. And the next slide demonstrates the science, the working scientifically. So you've got all of those key skills that are, again, mapped up where they come up within what unit and actually what lessons they come up in as well. And that's been the skills, obviously, been mapped for geography, history as well. So you've got the knowledge, the progression, but also the skills progression as well. So if we look at the next slide, I know colleagues mentioned around the adaptation. So within each subject, we've also included what we call S scales. And we basically took those for those that have been teaching a while, the P scales that used to be around, and we've basically turbocharged them, resequenced them, made them more ambitious so that it bridges the gap for perhaps those children that have finished EYFS not at the good level of development, not ready to access the Key Stage 1 curriculum, so that we've bridged that gap with these S scales. Similarly, if we've got any children, some children with EHCPs, maybe their attainment levels working significantly below the curriculum, because it's ambitious for everyone, and especially SEND, and that's where the pathways can be used so that you can use that sequence to give the children the right, ambitious, challenging learning diet. And then the next slide, assessment being a big factor, but part of the Lion Learning Pathways, Lion Trust, and Dan can probably talk a bit more about this, is part of the DNA to that teaching and learning is for children to be active learners, but also assessment proficient learners. So we didn't want to go down the route of like a sort of a quiz that, let's face it, a 5-year-old could do that every day that week and probably get a different outcome. Whereas all of these units are supported with these splash pages that link directly to the lessons. And it's kind of the extension of the plenary for reflection on how did I do with that lesson? Did I need some support? Could I do it by myself? Or was I able to explain it to others? So that when teachers are then conferencing with the children for giving their assessment, whether they're working towards working at or at greater depth, children are empowered to go through the work that they've done in that unit to show clearly where they've met that learning intention, how that success criteria supported them. So it really encourages that ownership and independence of their learning, and also how they can self-regulate, but also reflect on the work they've done, so that it supports how we're committing that learning to long-term memory. In addition, on the Myros, we've mapped out all the previous learning as well.
Can I get you to upload the Myro on your side, Aaron? And
yeah, sure. Yeah. So
I'm going to bring St Mary's back in on the camera. I'm going to start to fire some questions at you guys. In fact, I'll fire one at you, Daniel, first of all. So while Aaron gets the presentation up, could you describe a typical day in the classroom for me, Daniel, in terms of how it might differ to traditional, photocopying textbooks, those kind of things?
Absolutely. So just to kind of take you back a step, we've focused really heavily on the last few years on how we look at PPA. So the planning side of it, we now frontline support from SLT. So we've really kind of managing that, not just what sort of planning is going on there, but how we can support them to kind of teach to need. So across all of the schools, we streamline children. So even from year 1, they go to different set teachers for their reading, the writing, and the maths. And then they go back to the home classes to mixed ability for the curriculum in the afternoon. And that was really important to us, because we thought, the curriculum is set above the minimum expectations of the national curriculum, but it's also in terms of chronological reading age, we're talking highbrow, greater depth focus, which means that the kind of implementation of this has to be carefully coordinated at making sure that those children have the basic skills and understanding from an English perspective. So in our reading, for example, 2 to 3 days a week, we spend purely on deconstructing some of the curriculum knowledge that's going to come up in history, for example. So in autumn term 1, in year 6, in history, year 6 are looking at the Industrial Revolution. It's quite a meaty topic, but they're building on prior knowledge links from the 1800s, and then they're going straight into understanding how agricultural labour changed.
I'm always amazed by primary teachers, because you're expected to be a subject expert in all your different subjects, and secondary teachers get away with just being good at one. So in terms of CPD, what kind of CPD have you put in place to help your staff use the software, but really develop this amazing curriculum offer?
So what we've done is we've split it into 2 distinct sections. So one is the pedagogical input, so understanding the Myro, how we teach, and it's a really simple model that the Trust advocate. So it's absolutely through what is prior knowledge at the beginning of the lesson, so retrieval and understanding what have they retained from the lesson before or the lesson previous to that. All of the units start with a consolidation of understanding from way back when. So on the kind of the wider snake, which you were showing earlier on, so the learning journey, you can then dip back into we were learning about this in year 3, and we've had elements of this in year 2, and then each lesson individually starts with a prior knowledge 3 questions, so you can kind of really hook into what have you taken from the lesson before, what are they understanding from it, and that gives us the ability to, on the ground, make sure that assessment for learning is happening, but also that we're constantly reminding children that schematically they're making these links. And then, so to get back to your question about how we've introduced that to staff, our professional development program for the last 2 years has really focused on non-core teaching. And I think, if I'm being honest with you, as a head previously, there's that focus all the time on making sure that the things that are tested, so your reading, your writing, your maths, are always front and center. But actually, we've stepped away from that, and we've been glad to do it. You know, we've really pushed. We're doing 2 hours tonight on history, and we're going to look at what does the national curriculum aims look like? How do we teach non-statutory concepts that sit above that? Why do we do that? And why have we chosen this linear, you know, this chronological way of teaching, so that in year 1, they start off straight away at the Stone Age, where some schools are teaching that from year 3. And we're really clear that we want these children to have this absolute, you know, their own clarity on British history right from the get-go, and to be able to draw upon that experience. So our staff, and we recently had an Ofsted here at St Mary's, they were so good at being able to do that and independently do that, to speak to anyone who, you know, was interested in the subject. And I think that's the power of the curriculum, because
putting it front and center and supporting staff with that development and providing the resources has obviously been really beneficial. Aaron, I'm going to bring you back in. Could you just zoom out on the Myro and let people see you know, what it is, and give us a couple of minutes, just a whistle-stop tour, and then I'll come back to the team at St Mary's. And I've got a question here from a member of public, and anyone else watching online, your reminder, place your comments in your social media channel, whatever you're watching, and I'll display 1 or 2 questions to the team. So Aaron, over to you.
Yeah, so Myro basically brings the line learning pathways to life. It's free. You can set up an education account. You can have 99 different users within your account. Now, I'm in the central kind of template account here. And then basically, once you've got your Myro account, you just upload the boards that I can share with you. It's very seamless. Just click there, open, upload them. And I just share those via WeTransfer, and it just works as a kind of search engine, really. So if I was to go year 4, and how we code it is autumn 1, autumn 2, spring 1, spring 2, you know, summer, whatever, go on to my history one, and then it just pops up here. And again, like the colleagues have said, you can zoom in, zoom out, so that you can see the whole unit here. And then, like Dan said, you've got the chronology there to support children's understanding, the pathways. We've also mapped out all of the cultural capital gains as well, nice visuals for the classrooms. All of the lessons start with a kind of, you know, a pre-teach for the teachers to know what they're doing, make sure that they've kind of prepped before the lesson. They all start with exciting entry points. So we've introduced a lot of VR. So, okay, yes, we can't go to the Colosseum and jump on a plane, but we can go and explore it with virtual reality. Gives you all of the resource prompts. Like Dan said, when you start, do you remember, children, all the previous links for the learning? So for this one, for example, learned about this in year 2 and actually in that lesson. So I could go back to that lesson and remind them. Key vocabulary, regular feature, but not just the words, the definitions, also visuals to support. And then you're into the actual content of the lesson. Again, lots of talk partner opportunities, making those explicit links to what success criteria these slides cover. All of the video clips, they're all live, and you can access those as you go along when they load up here. And you can make those bigger, obviously. And yeah, you go through all of the content, and then essentially lots of talk partner opportunities. And then, as we said, then we're into the task. So you've kind of gone through that modeling process of the lesson as you've gone, and then you've got greater depth tasks, working at expected tasks and working towards additional resources here. For example, comparing sources here, plenaries. And then around the assessment splash pages, the children then have opportunities to kind of, you know, how'd you get on? Did you meet the learning intention? What success criteria did you achieve? How'd you know? And then they update their assessment. And then we're kind of, you know, then we perhaps close that, right? We're on to geography now. So I'll go back to my Myro log in here, but now I'm in year 2 and I'm still in autumn 1 and I'm looking at geography. And then let me just see where that one is. Yeah, year 2, autumn 1 geography. And then I basically then go back into this one, which should load up.
You got a lot of tabs open there.
Yeah, but even still, it's still you know, meets it. And again, you get an idea for the consistency. They're all mapped out exactly the same.
So let me get this straight for people watching and seeing this for the first time. You're giving them a stack of resources per subject, per key stage, with the assessment frameworks, resources laid out, and they can also tweak it to suit themselves.
Absolutely. These are the templates. These are the starting points, and kind of do as you wish. But obviously, you know, when we've got ECTs that have just joined us, they've got quite a lot to get their heads around. But then if you're giving them that program of study where you can access the digital content here, then it's kind of like one less thing to do, one less thing to worry about. So I can quite quickly go to, you know, my year group, autumn half term. There's my national curriculum. They're the learning intentions I'm teaching. There's the greater depth, and I've got all of my planning here. So it helps me to get ahead and stay ahead, Ross, so that I can kind of focus on.
Aaron, can I ask you to maybe, I'm going to bring the team in because I want to pick teacher brains in particular for people watching. Amy and Georgia, this is your cue, your next question. Aaron, depending on what they say, could you just maybe switch the slides to suit the content? So Amy and Georgia, the question, you know, when we talk about your most vulnerable students, your SEND pupils, how does the pathway structure the support that you have as a teacher in terms of differentiating that material? Because, you know, let's face it, differentiation for teachers is a real workload burden. How does it make it easier? And I'll ask Aaron maybe to just demonstrate some of the slides as you explain some of your answers.
So there's a real focus on vocabulary, and for those children in particular, being able to see the vocabulary not only in context, but be using it in so many different ways and bringing it to life for those children. And in our context as well, being such a high EAL, having such high EAL, the curriculum goes above, challenges them, but supports them with that development. So we are teaching vocabulary above the national curriculum, but they're able to access it because they have all these tools, and it is clearly, it's where it's sequential. They're building on that prior knowledge.
Georgia?
Yeah, I think as well, having the pathway allows us to see what should have come before. So even for us in nursery, we're a preschool setting, so we can see what they should have done before, and where we're sort of plugging the gaps then quite quickly, and then we can see where we're trying to get them to by the time they leave us in the summer, because it's all broken down into termly objectives. So it gives us that chance to, when we get children come to us lower than average, and that's quite common for us, we are able to see quite quickly where we need to pitch it and then how we need to move them on.
So teacher workload kind of topic, Amy, Georgia, you know, that kind of click of a button, student missed last lesson, or you need to show them something quick. Is it easy to access, super quick to flick between resources and slides?
The majority of staff will have their Myros open for the day, so they're able to make those links and refer. But once you get into the habit of using it, you can refer back and you can show them that prior learning, so they are able to recall. And for teachers, where the content is there for them, they are able to do that, and they've become really confident in delivering those lessons because they know what's coming up. Their focus is on delivering, not creating. And for the workloads, that's massively helped.
Great. Faye, now when I was a deputy head teacher, one of the biggest passions for all school leaders is reducing that teacher workload. So with this resource, could you genuinely hand on heart say that it's reducing teacher workload? Could you share some specific examples where teachers, members of staff said, yeah, I now have my Sunday night back, kind of thing?
Yes, and actually our staff are quite passionate as to how the non-core curriculum has helped support them with their workload. I was just jotting some things down, and I think what was really important for our staff at St Mary's before Daniel started with us is we didn't have a clear curriculum, and actually our staff struggled on a daily and weekly basis to ensure that our children had those clear learning points. And actually by introducing this new curriculum for our staff, because the high quality texts, videos, pictures are already present, it means our staff have a chance to understand the content and become experts in the subjects. So instead of them concentrating on their time in finding, oh, I need a video to explain X, they've already got it. So then they can concentrate on, right, how am I going to deliver this to my children? How can I bring this curriculum alive? Actually, we're going to look at the VR headsets today because they have the opportunity to more look at the content and what they're teaching instead of spending all their time trying to find the resources to support with the lesson.
Great. And could I get you to maybe give me a guesstimate of how much time you think this saves teachers?
Hours a week.
Definitely hours a week. If you think about our teachers now within their PPA, their focus is purely on the core lessons, because they don't have to think about on a weekly basis what's happening with the non-core. As we work across 3 schools, we're very, very lucky that our teachers work as year group teams across those 3 schools. So St Mary's is 3 formentary, Valentine is 3 formentary, Mason Moore is 1 formentary. So you end up with 7 teachers being able to take a subject each when it comes to the non-core. So you've only got to concentrate on 1 non-core printing resources for everybody, which means the whole of your PPA can be focused on the core teaching, which is children.
And as someone who plans, because we have all the objectives, we're not having to pull from the national curriculum and plot them out. You're reducing that workload again, because even the core subjects is so everything is laid out for you to see what you're doing next. So that's this workload again.
So happy teachers, sorry.
I think it's also important with the non-core curriculum that's there on the Myros that you've shown. It's the teachers don't have to think about what am I going to teach. It's more how am I going to teach this. So those the lesson content you can see is quite dense, but actually we have to adapt it for what the children need in the class or in the set. So that's really where the thinking of the teacher spends their time.
Can I come back to you? In your role as a strategic leader, how is that, tracking pupil progress, for example, and demonstrable outcomes? How could you attribute the use of Myro and these resources to your children's outcomes? What kind of evidence are you seeing?
So pupil progress for the non-core. So the Myro, the Lion Academy Trust pathway comes with, like Daniel says, the entry point quizzes, lots of retrieval, lots of recapping. They have the end of unit assessments as well. And then we have a lot of AFL through exit ticket to see what knowledge has been retained through the topic. So we don't necessarily assess for the non-core, but there's lots of resources that we would use as part of the framework that you buy into, which you can use daily or weekly or bi-weekly or at the end of units through quizzes, through little oracy activities. So we talked about putting reading into the non-course. That's another way that we would assess.
Okay. Leanne, can I come to you, bring you in terms of literacy? How are the resources helping you as a strategic, school leader across the school promote literacy and embed, knowledge? What kind of key things in this resource could you signpost?
It's 100% through the vocabulary of the children that the children are using now. So they are being exposed to technical vocabulary that they weren't exposed to before. And that has made a massive difference for our children. And the way that they speak, and like Daniel was saying, in our Ofsted, the children were able to really articulate that learning. And when you go around to classrooms, even the SEND children are able to tell you what they are learning at their level, which has been really interesting. And in terms of, so it's their speaking and listening that's really improved, as well as their writing.
Now, in terms of you're maintaining the balance between your curriculum provision that you've got here, Dan, I'm going to bring you in here. How do you allow staff to still have a degree of autonomy as well as plump this in? Here's a curriculum package for you. What are your thoughts on that question?
So the way that when we actually created these Myro, so I was heavily involved with history and geography about 3.5 years ago. With I was telling you before, it was a team across the trust at the time. We sat together in a room for many hours, and we started creating these resources that we knew would go across the schools. And that focus, as Leanne was saying, was absolutely on vocabulary first, because we knew that what we were expecting them to do and exposing them to was way above where some of them would be, especially in our brokered schools. So the newer schools that were coming into the trust that were inadequate or requires improvement. So for me, that's kind of the starting point for making sure that we're getting it right. Remind me of the question again.
Teachers being able to.
So how do you let me still have an autonomous decision about what I can do, with whether you've given everyone the resources inside?
So in some of the subjects like history, for example, there's an absolute necessity for you to then think about context. So for example, in history, you've got to kind of look at locality study at 3 points throughout the journey with you from year 1 to 6. So that you get a skeleton Myro, which is giving you a context, I think, of London from when we built it. But then you take that, and we've made that about Southampton and brought in the docks, the history there. The same geography, actually. So then that locality study and children understanding about where they live, where they're growing up, and that filters in through art. And it means that the innovation section is tangibly linked to the core content we want those children to know and remember by the end of it. But all they're doing is linking it as a teacher to kind of where we are and what we want the children to know locally. And I think for me, over the 3 schools, we've got a high degree of ECTs coming through as experienced teachers are kind of moving away from the profession in droves, and that's really sad. But what we've got is this opportunity to kind of help them build their subject knowledge quickly so that they're secure in teaching, but at the same time still innovate the lessons so that they feel that this is a lesson that I've prepared because I don't know, to take them on a journey through.
I mean, if I was an ECT and I was given this, the amount of hours and weekends for years that it would have saved would have been unbelievable. So yeah, a fantastic resource and a fantastic answer. Thank you. George, I'm going to come back to you because I've told you I'm fascinated about early years. It's only because it's outside my expertise. The question I want to ask you is about feedback. How does the platform, obviously the teachers involved through, your verbal and written aspects of feedback, but how does it allow you to provide student feedback in early years? Is that something is that an easy answer or have I kind of put you on the spot?
So we do feedback we do it daily. So we have review time in nursery and we review those key intentions that we've been looking at. And it's everywhere in our room as well. So we've got it up on our learning journey because it's broken down into the terms, and then I've put it into which half term we think it would match. Yeah. It's up on the board for the children to look at. They've got their own individual pathways that they move themselves physically along. So for nursery, it's about how can we make it as practically something you can hold and say, look, I've made a move onto the next step along my journey. And we build that into every day. So that is the expectation. And that was noticed again when Ofsted came. I think they were pleasantly surprised that when they're walking through a nursery, they could stop and ask the children what they've been doing, and they were able to comment. Beyond that sort of, I'm drawing, it was the skill and the knowledge that they've been looking at.
Brilliant. And Amy, back to you. I'm picking, teacher opinion here, which is super important. How has Myro allowed you to collaborate with other teachers in your team or across the school or even across the trust?
So it's been really good working with the other schools now to be able to train them. And what's been really helpful is because I can work with, because we have a nursery, we can work together on what we're doing, link things. We're working with the other schools on oracy so that everyone is able to articulate what they're doing. And being able to share the Myros means that all children are getting the same deal. They're all getting that oracy practice. They're all learning the same skills. We're putting it into everything we do, from nursery all the way to the other side of the city. They're all getting those skills. And as the school that has had it the longest, we're able to work with those new teachers and build up their confidence. Mm-hmm. So we also move to a model so we try and reflect what the rest of the school do, because the Lion Academy Trust has an early years curriculum. Everything we do, they already feel part of the school. They already understand our curriculum from nursery all the way through. They get used to the snake, the pathway. They get used to Myro. They know their learning journey. They feel part of a bigger picture. They're used to seeing those objectives. Mm-hmm. And we can work with our staff so that we can work collaboratively. So across the city, everyone is getting that deal.
Great. Leanne, what advice would you give to some other teachers who are watching this and are thinking about, either positive, it's going to change my life workload, or skeptical, kind of, anything that they might be worried about? Any kind of, from your own hindsights of how it's been implemented over your own experiences, any kind of words of wisdom to share with teachers?
I think it's about just knowing the Myro and how the Myro works.
Yeah.
And and also understanding the subject knowledge. Like Daniel said, it's not a 10-to-1 curriculum. You really need to know that curriculum, how you're going to teach it before you go in. Mm-hmm. But once you get your head around that, it's really easy to use.
So the kind of software, how the software functions.
Yeah, and also as well, we've taught our TAs how to use the Myros in the lessons, so that they've got them with the children in the lesson, so they can be following along with the teacher.
Well, that's a great piece of advice. Obviously support staff, helping them access the resources is a great suggestion. Faye, can I come to you as school leader? Words of wisdom for other school leaders watching this, things to be, mistakes to avoid, great kind of quick wins. What would be your advice?
I think when Daniel started with us within February, so it was about 4 months into the academic year, and we moved over to the Lion Academy Trust pathway and to Myro. And I think one of the biggest part of the Myro, which really helped our teachers, is, as you probably saw when you were looking through the different Myros, they have these chain-like symbols which show the link to previous learning. And actually that was vital for our children and our teachers, because as Daniel said, there are learning concepts, especially within year 6. You're looking at the Industrial Revolution, and actually the building blocks for the children to be successful are built into the Myro. So actually, when our children in year 6 were looking at that, they hadn't had that previous learning, because we started it within the middle of the year, and actually they hadn't had it previously. So we really encouraged our teachers to look back at previous learning so they could explore. For example, the year 6 look at the American Revolution, but previously they look at the French Revolution and the US Civil War. So they need those building blocks leading up. So actually anybody who's taking on this curriculum is encourage your teachers to explore the previous learning blocks, because they will help children in the long run.
What strikes me from the software, and I'm relatively new to Myro, and it kind of reminds me roughly of Prezi, is that that teacher workload, when you forget things, it's there to hand, and the little link icons give you that little nudge to show, right, well, I can put that back up on the screen and show the students.
We really encourage our children to be confident to notice them, and within all of our exercise books, we have the pathway printed in the front of their books, so the children can refer back, and we encourage them to refer back. So if they are looking at the American Revolution, we encourage them to make the links to their previous learning. So that really important for our children so they can draw back on that previous knowledge.
The other thing is our children have become more independent in the lessons. So I was doing a lesson walk, and there were children going back through the Myro when they were on their task. So they were able to, like, I don't understand this. Let me find out about this now. Let me recap what I've learned.
Anna, words of wisdom for school leaders, hindsight of your own journey, what to avoid, lessons learned, or quick wins. What would you suggest?
I think that from a teacher in the classroom perspective, when you look at those Myros, one of the main challenges we had, that teachers were really struggling to get through the content. And actually there's a lot there. So it's just understanding that you have to know you've got the objective, you've got the content, you've got the resources, but how are you going to present that? And that links to the autonomy as well. Because if you look at that, it's very much, it could easily fall into just reading from a slide. But the teacher has to think about, how am I going to get the children engaged and make it more active learning? And you don't have to go through every single slide. So it's thinking about, what is it? How am I going to adapt that to be able to get through the objective in the time that I've got? And I think teachers struggled initially with that, because there is a lot there. It's a high literacy link. So a lot of our reading and writing has been brought through that. And another thing for Workload, if you're looking for really high quality text in writing or reading, there's lots that you can use there already. Pre-teach to then go in the afternoon to save time, or not necessarily pre-teaching, but dissecting the learning or the text or whatever the knowledge is, and then I guess,
the nature of the platform and the plans, the resources are just going to keep growing, I suppose, and make everyone's working lives a little bit easier, and ultimately those outcomes for our young people. Dan, I'm going to come back to you for a final question. What are your plans next? Building that curriculum even further. We know that the curriculum's never done, so we're constantly tinkering on the sides and tightening the nuts and bolts. What are you thinking at this stage where you need to go next?
So for us, what we've looked at over the last year is how we then choose what we find. This has been made for us and we're aware of that, but I know it really well, having worked with it. So for us, it's been a journey of what are we deciding as a leadership team? What's the core content that we want these children to know and remember by the end of the year? Because as Anna said, there's a lot in it. So we've then created, which are available on our websites, our knowledge organisers. So we've created distinct knowledge organisers for every year group across the non-core subjects to say, at this school, at St Mary's, this is the key content that you need to know and remember in autumn term 1 in year 1, for example. And I think what we've then also done is, and I don't know if Aaron can show you, but at the end of each of the planning units, there's also a celebration idea, which I think it's the thing that's lit this for our, it's the buy-in for our children that they needed. So at the end of each full term, we then create the great St Mary's Great Exhibition. And at that exhibition, these children have 6 weeks at home through home learning to create something that symbolises or represents the learning that they've had through the curriculum. So, I started this when I was still at the Trust, actually, at Ruskin, which is a school in Wellingborough, and we had a great exhibition there. And it's this opportunity for children to get with their parents to think about, well, I've been learning all this information in geography about Peru, and now I want to be able to show this off. And they create the most wonderful, our IDACI index quintile is 5. We're in the lowest area in Southampton. It's poor, but we give these children every resource they want. So if they come in and say they need PVA glue and some paint, they do it. And what they produce is outstanding. We walk around our building and they've made these phenomenal. I'll
ask Aaron to put a couple of examples on the screen just for context. That education speak. Daniel mentioned a phrase, IDACI, so that's the Index for Child Deprivation here in England. So just for clarity, the team here on the screen are working with pupils in high poverty, disadvantage, getting incredible outcomes for the young people. So something is definitely working here. Great teaching and great curriculum. Have I missed anything, everyone, before I kind of start to wrap things up? The audience, people watching, a lot of you watching, but you've been very quiet. I suspect you've been fascinated by what the team have had to say. So well done, everybody. Any other comments? Daniel?
The thing for me is, we talk all the time about our mission is around changing life chances for children, because, as you just said, we're we probably are the poorest school in Southampton with the highest mobility demographic. You know, we're a first responder to children who are coming from Afghanistan, Ukraine, and we're 81 or 2% EAL. So for 600 pupils, that's a huge number of children who come here without English. They leave doing, you know, with phenomenal progress and doing better because of this curriculum. And the fundamental for me is why, you know, when you're looking at a curriculum, the starting point for that is really hard. You know, where do you begin? What, you know, you don't necessarily have the expertise on your staffing team. You don't need that with this. This is a seed that you can plant in your school that will deliver. And across all 3 schools, you know, we've had Ofsted now in all of them over the past 6 months, and this has been the thing that they've said to us: you're on, you know, you're onto a winner. With
right, brilliant. So I'm going to start to wrap things up, everyone. Aaron, I'm going to bring you back in, and St Mary's and Daniel, don't disappear there. I'm going to bring you back shortly, but I'll take you off screen for now, so you can all have a little breather and grab some water and things like that. But well done, Aaron. If I put this slide on here, could you run through the benefits? You know, so we heard what Daniel had to say, you know, a brilliant curriculum provision to transforming outcomes for the most disadvantaged children in the country. What else does this package offer?
I think really just the key benefits is as we've discussed, it's the intent is very, very strong. And as colleagues have shared, like quite openly, and that's really appreciated, that it's around the implementation, you know, just getting that right. I like their approach that the leaders very quickly became the experts, were using the Myro boards in class to be able to then support others, supporting the teachers with the scaffolded learning, like we said, for any, like you said, around the primary teacher, it's kind of that expertise across all subject areas they teach. And that's what we do as primary educators, and all the content is there for you. The sequencing of learning's there so that you can adapt it to meet the needs of any child with the right challenge, with the right ambition for all children. And yeah, just to echo the teacher workload reduction, it's yes,
it's been very evident.
Yeah, we've got this for you, but and Dan, you know, Dan echoes from when we were working together. It's not a 10-to-1 lesson, so we're giving you all of this resource, all of this rich subject content. You just need to make sure you know what you're teaching, so that you're able to get the learning across, and then ultimately it comes through with the outcomes. Like across Lion Trust, end of year 6 attainment last year combined was 20% above national. It's 79%, and those children have obviously been you know, exposed to this curriculum for a number of years now.
Sure. If I come back to this slide, Aaron, just remind everyone, you know, what's the current package, and then I'll ask you that awkward question about costs next, and I'm going to bring you back and finish. Tell us what's currently available and what your plans are next.
Yeah, so in its entirety, there's 234 units, over 1,500 lessons, all the adapted tasks, which we've shown you. So every lesson has that adaptation to it. Dan talked about the celebration ideas. Dan, I did count them once. There's 759 celebration ideas, but they're just ideas, you know. And again, that's where the innovation comes in. We'll give you a starting point, but you may have a better idea. You may have a bigger idea. So, you know, by all means, adapt it and innovate it. Vocabulary is a key feature across every lesson, as we've seen. And again, with the active learning, the use of talk partners. So we've done it for every single subject. Music is the, I suppose, the newest one that we've done. So we've done all of the Myros first, because that's what the children get and that's what they see. And then we'll look to kind of scrape that off the Myros into the Pathways booklets, so that they're aligned with the lesson planning, adaptation, you know, so they're structured the same. But every year we get the same people in the room to go through slide by slide, how can we make this better? Checking all of the web links. Are they still fit for purpose? Is there something else out there that may be updated? Checking on the tasks. A key push for the refresh for this year was around the plenaries, how we're kind of really cherry picking the most important, like, assessment for learning questions. updating the assessment sheets, adding stimulus, enhancing exit points, entry points. So as you said, it will never stand still and be static. We're evolving it
all the time. So this awkward question, school leaders watching, what am I getting in and how much does it cost? If I put this one up on the screen, give us an explanation.
So yeah, look, we just want to get it out there, which is why you can see that's reflected in the pricing, because we know it works. We're very passionate about it. We're very proud of Dan and the team. You know, they've implemented it really successfully, and obviously they're seeing the massive impact as a result of that. You can get the whole thing for less than 2,000, 1,995, with an additional 5% off if you've attended today. You can buy it just by key stage if you're an infant school or just a junior school, or you can buy it by subject. So, for example, if you think I need to further improve the music curriculum, D&T curriculum, and you can actually get 3 for 2 there. So we've just had a school, they needed to work on their science, but they also thought, well, you know, I want to look at the art one, and actually I'll get a third one for free. So I'll take the design technology one as well.
I've built my own website. There's a lot of time and development and investment put behind the scenes to make sure everything works.
Yeah.
And
so,
as you said, this is not stopping still. It's just growing and growing and growing. And as you have more users, you're going to need more admin support to make sure people can use all this stuff. So in my experience, I see a lot of this stuff through my life as Teacher Toolkit. I can tell you, everybody watching, this is incredible value, and you can see the quality of resources, and you've heard the brilliant endorsements from the teachers. So I'm going to bring the teachers back in, and I'm going to ask you for any final comments. So Erin, before I bring the team in, any kind of concluding comments?
Yeah, just that we're very proud of it. We've got a lovely stall at BET, January 24th. Pop down, check us out. We've got all the experts there, 7 of our curriculum leaders.
Right, well, I'll be there, and I'll come and grab a selfie with all of you.
So, Lion Pathways at BET. Yeah,
right, great. And there's Erin's email on the screen, everybody. So I'll put that in the chat box and in communications after we finish. Right, back to the team. Let's get these slides out the way. So around the table, I'm going to just fire some random questions at you just to finish. Amy, what's your favorite topic inside the Myro platform?
History.
History. Can I ask why?
I love the way you can do so much with it and the way it links to all the other subjects. It's not just a standalone. There's a lot you can do with it, and the children get so excited. I've never seen this cohort of year ones more engaged. It's just incredible.
Georgia, favorite subject?
Understanding the world, which is very EYFS. But yeah, because it does go across all of those things.
Right,
and
brilliant.
Yeah, it's great.
Faye, for you know, as a school leader, what makes your life easier when you've got all your teachers logging into, you know, the kind of same kind of curriculum package?
I think it's all being in one place. Everything is in one place. It's all online. It's accessible to everybody. If I have someone come to me and say, oh, I'm really confused about this content, could you help me? I can easily upload it onto my laptop straight away and chat to them about it. There's no, oh, where's that saved? Let me try and find it. It's there. It's all in one place.
Great. Leanne, when you go on those learning walks you mentioned, what kind of things are you seeing and feeling, and you know, that impact you're seeing? How do it make you feel?
For me, it's the buzz from the children, and it's seeing all of those children be able to talk about their learning and be so engaged and enthused by it. And like Daniel was saying, the home learning that's coming in is phenomenal. And we wouldn't have before.
Anna, have you got a favourite topic?
I think history and art are a real strength. That would be a favourite, but the science curriculum, because it's so visual,
yes,
and because some teachers struggle teaching science, that's really helped with the subject knowledge, but it's also bringing it alive for the children and making it practical as well. So I think those would be my 3, I'd say.
Great. And over to the main man, Daniel. Daniel, what are you most proud of?
I think it's always a gamble, isn't it, when you walk away from something. So when I was at the Lion Academy Trust, it had had so many years of excellent practice of growing, and forming into what it was. And then it is a gamble. I walked into Southampton and said, we're going to be using this. These are the systems. We're going to go with it right away. And actually, we're 19 months in, and we received the final report today. It's outstanding in all areas. 19 months of work. I walked into a school that was rag rated for inadequate. I had HMI conversations about what was going wrong at the school at the time and everything that was negative. And now we're on a pathway journey of 19 months in, outstanding in all areas. We've got a school down the road who we're supporting at the minute, who's just joined us. And they just had the first SIO visit, school improvement officer, and the outcomes were this curriculum is incredible. And I think that's what this does. So
there you go, folks. So that external validation. Right, I'm going to bump you guys in the green room behind the scenes, so stay on the line. But give everybody a wave, and thank you so much for your time. The first time on live stream, everyone, didn't they do really well? So thank you, everybody. I'll be back shortly. Well done. Right, so everyone, I'm just going to wrap things up. You've been very, very quiet on the chat box. There's lots of people I can see lurking and watching, which is fine. I'm going to circulate the slides, the links to the people that have been in the session with me tonight, the link to the curriculum package itself, the costs, and all those kind of things. Just a recap from me. You've heard it from the teachers themselves, that dramatic difference to pupil outcomes, pupil engagement, teacher workload, that strategic overview, and the difference it's making to the life chances of our young people. I guess the only Achilles heel that I can hear is just learning how to use the software. And, we're all surrounded by so many different bits of platforms and so many different bits of tech out there. Once you get that little kind of over that little bit of a kind of itch and scratch it, you start to learn how to use the tools really well. And I think through Aaron's demonstrations, you can see how rich and diverse the resources are and how it works. So I'd encourage you all to get in touch if you are curious, or you've got a particular scheme that you would like to introduce, or you want the whole thing. Trust me, while it's at a very good, affordable price, I'd get in early. So there's your prices there. There's Aaron's email at the bottom. Get in touch. Can I thank you all for joining me this evening? Thank you for your time, and thank you to all the staff who've joined me this evening. I know it's a late evening, but thank you so much for your time. Other than that, I'll see you on the next session, and thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.